The D8 literally has just launched. So we initially presented it to the market in October last year out in Milan at Host, and then we launched it to the UK market at London Coffee Festival. These are the versions we had at London Coffee Festival, so there's a few things on here that aren't final, but generally they're pretty much there. So we wanted to create a machine that filled a gap slightly in our portfolio, but equally we had 4 key elements that we wanted to answer in our approach to designing a new machine. So when we look at new machines within Sanremo, we don't generally kind of go, let's do a version 2, let's do a version 3, let's do a version 4, bolt another thing on to an existing machine. We like to go blank sheet of paper. If we were to make a fresh machine today to answer the needs of the industry, what would we do? And that's how the D8 was born. So we wanted to make a machine that was good for the end user to use, easy to use, lack of training, with high staff turnover within the industry and all those kind of challenges around investment in staff. We wanted to make a machine that was very easy and simple to use. From a technical point of view, we wanted to make a machine that was then fairly access and ease of parts and commonality of parts within the industry was readily available. So not being precious about creating bespoke valves and all these kind of bits and pieces to go inside it, using tech that's already available in the industry and widely known within the industry so that machines can stay up and running and keep running really, really well. Wanted to make a machine that had a better look than just a stainless steel box. Hence, the Zoe and all those stainless steel machines we see from every other manufacturer. We really wanted to put our Sanremo stamp on what a sort of a new entry-level machine could look like, but at the same time giving roasters and coffee companies the control they want to be able to maximise the quality of the coffee within the cup. So that was key to it. And then with all the drive for data-hungry acquisition and everything else, we wanted to then build a platform that could then link in and give people that feedback and that desire of how well is my coffee performing in that outlet if I'm not there, and vice versa. So we created a brand new platform that allows us to talk to the machines and push and pull data backwards and forwards.
Is that something, Stuart, we can see?
Yeah. So you get full access to machines within your estate. Yeah. So we built it as a platform. We've actually got 2 models of the D8, with the D8 as the entry and the D8 Pro. An easy way to kind of explain that is if you go into a car showroom, you look at a model of car, generally you've got the top end with all the bells and whistles added right at the top. That's our D8 Pro, and our D8 is at the other end of the scale. It's kind of your entry level. You can add your optional extras onto if you wanted to through the scope. So the model we have here is the D8 Basic as the entry level. The only optional extra that's sitting on this machine that's not on the machine as standard is these LED lights that run under the group heads. But everything else on here is what you'd get on a standard model. So shot timers at standard on here as well. Originally, this picture you might just be able to see it doesn't have shot timers on it, but we made a late call to say you can't go from a Zoe with shot timers and then go backwards to go forwards. So we put shot timers on the entry level model as well. So key features of this machine compared to the Zoe and sort of moving things forward. So the first thing we have that's a big step up from the Zoe is we have temperature adjustable group heads. It's actually changed slightly from 91 to 98 degrees. So we can actually, without any mechanical intervention, you can change the temperature of the group heads electronically on the machine without having to get inside the machine and play about with it in any size, shape or form. We move from a copper boiler construction through to a stainless steel boiler construction, which I'll come on to one of the reasons behind that in a second. We can fully isolate the steam circuit to save on energy if we really wanted to. Big thing for some other markets in Europe. We've designed access into the machine so that engineers can get into it easily and maintain it and look at it, and I'll show you inside the machine very shortly. You can electronically control the steam pressure, so literally just on the keypad as well, you can control all of the steam pressures within the machine. You can have an internal pump or an external pump. All of our electronics inside here on 24 volts, so that allows us very easily to dial into the machine remotely to see whatever these systems doing, every sensor's doing, and pull that data out. System we first developed when we launched the the F18, and similarly now on the Cafe Racer, all of our electronics generally run on a 24-volt circuit, so it's nice and low and gives us the ability to bring an IoT system across the fleet of machines in the future as we develop things as we go forward.
Because it's low power.
Because it's low power, yeah, it's easier to read and push and pull because it's lower. So designs have changed a little bit. So this is the entry machine as we've got it here. The logo has been taken off the end for the moment. Come back to that in a second. And then this is the Pro version. So the Pro version will have a few more optional extras where, as a standard, you'd have the lights under the group heads, and as an option you'll be able to have additional lights on the end panels and have logos and bits and pieces created in a very sort of similar way to the Racer with leather panels with stock options as well. The biggest upgrade on the D8 Pro is you actually get a full color LED LCD display on the group head. So
is that on the group head?
That'll be actually on here. Yeah, so per group head you have a display. So one of the big changes between the base model and the Pro model is when we program the group head temperature on the base model, it programs both group heads to the exact same temperature. When we program it on the Pro model, you'll be able to actually independently program your different group heads to different temperatures. And then you've got a very similar to display to that you'll find on the Cafe Racer. So you'll have your group head temperature, your seconds of your last extraction, and then the number of meals that were extracted in your last shot as well. So you'll be able to see a lot of information, a lot of readout as a barista, very similar to that of the Racer on every group head. You've then also got a couple of other icons. So is it connected to the internet? Is the cup heater turned on? Is the energy saving mode engaged? Water fill? Are the timers to come on in the morning, turn off at the end of the day set? So it gives you a huge amount of information of what the machine's doing and what the machine is up to.
So Stuart, on the basic,
Yep.
that display was just a shot timer?
Just a shot timer. It has a few other purposes, which I'll show in a second, but it's generally just a shot timer. So pretty much the identical functionality as the Zoe. So this should give you an idea of the features on each machine. So this machine as it sits here, you've got standard hot water straight off the boiler, standard steam arms, not cool touch. It does have an eco mode, so if the machine's not used for half an hour, it will drop into eco mode 1 and drop the boilers by 10 degrees. After an hour, it will drop by another 10 degrees, and after another half an hour, it drops by another 10 degrees. Two reasons it does that. It saves energy, obviously, if the machine's not being used, and also if you wanted to then bring that machine back up to an operational temperature, the energy that required to bring the machine up from around about 70 degrees to 90 odd is far, far less than if you're bringing a machine from cold back up to full temperature. So just saves energy overall. It's like your heating at home. You turn your heating off at home and then try and boot it back on again. It takes ages to come back up. If you just let it drop by 10 degrees and come back up, or 8 degrees, then it comes back up again. So the Pro version then has, as I mentioned, the full color display. It then has the ability to program the independent group heads rather than the single group head. It has cool touch steam arms and mixed hot water on the hot water outlet, so you can moderate the water on it as well. It has the LED lights underneath as standard, and it has the Eco Pro mode. Now the Eco Pro mode versus the standard Eco mode is just with the Pro mode you can actually adjust the times that it drops down. So if you wanted it to drop down quicker at the end of the day because you know it's not going to be used, you can adjust the timings between the effect of that system running. Couple of key things to note just on the layout and the performance. So at the moment it just comes, both of them come in a 2-group and a 3-group. There isn't a compact model just yet. Biggest difference between the D8 and the Zoe when it comes to tool cup is on the D8 you're on the same platform. There's no 2 different chassis. It's the same chassis for both regular height and a tool cup. So all we do to go from a regular height, which this model is, to a tool cup is we drop this rail down to its bottom settings and we change out these 2 brackets and you can drop it to a tool cup. There is the option to lengthen the steam arms if you wanted to, but generally, you know, it doesn't look like a T-Rex with short little arms or anything. It's all good.
Is that a straightforward?
Yes, there's 2 screws that drop that bracket out and then you put the lower bracket in. Job done.
Is that the F18 we order the standard group and then drop it ourselves?
Yeah, you could do. You could do. I'm just waiting to find out the costs of the brackets to see what the change would be. That would be, I think, saves me holding 2 rounds of stock as well, so I can just bring in one spec and then drop them if need be. At the moment, the 2 group is actually rated to 20 amp. It's just over 16 amp at the moment, although we have got a project just working at the moment in Italy to see if we can rate it down to be under 16 amp consumption, which is looking very positive at the moment. The reason I say that is this one's been running on 16 amp in the showroom for the last 4 or 5 weeks and hasn't had a problem, and I haven't managed to break it yet. I haven't made 100 espressos in a day on it or anything crazy like that, but certainly I've tried to break it, and it's not tripped the power out yet. So I'm hopeful within time we'll be able to say there's a slightly lower power bracket for this machine, which I think falling into 16 amp supply would be perfect. One of the reasons it falls into the 16 amp supply as opposed to a regular 13 amp supply is because of the way that we've designed the machine to be stable and consistent. And this is where we take a big step up in the likes of compared to the Zoe, and using the stainless steel boilers to create far better consistency of temperature and flow. So what we have is we have a main steam boiler at the back, and then each group head actually has a 300 watt element inside it to stabilize the temperature of the water that's then coming out at our desired set point, which I'll go into a bit more detail in a sec. On our 2 group for the D8, we've actually gone back to a 7 litre boiler, down from a 10 litre on the Zoe. 2 reasons for that. One, with a stainless steel boiler, you can run higher pressures internally in that boiler. So actually we're running a higher temperature. So when we're pulling water off of it, it's already at a higher temperature. So actually to replenish it and get it back up, it's not causing the drop off we would normally see on a standard heat exchange machine. And secondly, where technology and elements and quality and speed of elements heating up have come on in the last 15 years, this is a far more modern element in this machine as well. So it's allowed us to go to a slightly smaller boiler, which is good. And insulation wise, the entry machine won't have any insulation on the boiler, but the Pro version will be fully insulated across the boiler and the steam arms, further improving temperature and energy usage across the machine as well. Another little key factor to point, just because Dan was talking about it earlier about the racers, it sits only at 554 mils deep, front to back, front of the drip tray to the back of the machine. So if you've got tight spaces and standard sort of kitchen counters that are 600 mil deep, it will fit on there without any overhang. The only overhang you'll get is just off the handles. So it's got a nice footprint from that point of view as well.
Quite a fancy kitchen to have.
Well, yeah. But you have to get, I've seen it time and time again, you get little cafes in little shops that have just put in old kitchen counters and struggle to get some machines on there. So from a footprint point of view, it works really nicely.
Sorry, sure. What was
Yep.
the power?
So 2 group, in a simplest version, 2 group at the moment is 20 amp supply, and a 3 group would be 32 amp supply. So hoping to get that down a little bit. So just to give you an idea of the competitors set of where we are with the D8. So if we looked at things like the Nuva Simonelli Appia, we go for stainless steel boilers on the D8 versus copper on the Appia. You have to do mechanical adjustment to adjust any temperatures on the Appia versus we can adjust it all by PID electronically on the machine without any engineer engagement. We've got our new heat exchange system versus a standard heat exchange where you get a bit of fluctuation and variance, which I'll show in a second. Electronically, we can adjust each group head. Again, it's mechanical and you need an engineer to do it on an Appia. And as I mentioned, we're going to be fully insulated on the Pro version, where only the boiler's insulated on the Appia. And we've got that across the Rancilios, very similar scenario, and on the Cimbali M26 as well. So it gives you a clear definition of the improvements and the price point.
Is the price point the same?
Yeah. Yeah. So the price points is very similar, and you're getting far more features on the D8 than you would on any of the other models. So
I suppose it lands up in V8. There's not really.
yeah, I mean.
How it's set against the basic linear.
So we've actually, one of the bench tests we've done is against the linear, and the temperature stability on this is far better than the linear. The linear has an inherent problem, I suppose is the best way to put it. Linear, for those who don't know, has two boilers. So La Marzocco Linear runs on what's called a dual boiler configuration. You have a steam boiler across the back, and then you have a secondary boiler which runs behind and powers all the group head. There's two inherent problems on the Linear. Inherent problem on the Linear, and I can't remember which. So I'll quickly run over what a standard heat exchanger is first, just so everyone gets the gist of how that works. And then I'll go through what we've done and why we can do what we've done with stainless steel boilers. So generally, on a standard heat exchanger, which is our Zoe and the F18 SB, you have your steam boiler at the back, which is this big round cut through here, and then you have what's called the heat exchanger through the middle. So the water in the blue bit is purely that powers your hot water and your steam within the machine. All the water that we use for brewing coffee with comes through this heat exchanger. Okay, so we inject cold water into the bottom. It then gets heated up by the heat that's then in that steam boiler, comes through the machine, and then goes off to the group head. Okay, and that's when you push the button, and then the water comes out of that. When you're not actually extracting a coffee, water just flows keeps flowing in a cycle through that system to stabilize it. So yeah, so historically on a standard heat exchanger model, you increase the temperature, you increase the pressure, your group head temperature climbs. We've eliminated that with the system we've created on the D8. And hence why not many people historically have used stainless steel on an entry-level machine, because one of the big benefits of using stainless steel boilers is you can run a higher pressure. So if you had a standard heat exchanger and you were running higher pressures in the stainless steel boiler, all you're going to do is send your group head temperature through the roof. There's no benefit to that. So what we've been able to do is we've been able to disconnect the effect of an increased pressure and a higher temperature and better quality steam from the temperature in the group head. So what we actually do now is we have inlet water that comes into the machine. Some of it goes through the heat exchanger, and some of it actually diverts off towards the group head. That water then gets heated and comes together and mixes in a valve behind the group head. So what we're doing here is we're actually stabilizing the water that's coming to the group head at 90 degrees. So we're not overheating any water at any point or losing any efficiency, but we're stabilizing the water that's coming to the group head at 90 degrees. Then with our final element in the group head, we can then hit our desired set point of that group head at between 91 to 98 degrees. So,
is that similar in any other machines?
No. So we're the only guys that have done this to date. So basically what we have got to the position of is you've got all the capabilities of a multi-boiler machine, but in a single boiler platform. So
those elements are almost acting like your multi-boiler.
Yeah, exactly.
You just don't have the capacity.
Yeah, say again.
But you wouldn't just have the capacity.
Yeah, it'll be a reduced capacity because of where it sits.
So you achieve the same
exactly.
consistency and stability.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, so it's all about consistency and quality of what you get in the cup as much as anything else. So we did some testing. We had to obviously test this and make sure it does what it says it does. So with a heat exchanger on a standard model, you do get a little bit of deviation where it will climb while it sits and it will drop off and then it will climb again. And if you actually run a heat exchange model in a busy environment, you'll actually find you get quite this wave of temperature across a group head as it's operating. It's trying to keep up, basically. Just the nature of the way a heat exchanger works. So we put the D8 on test against two of our main competitors, some of them which we did the comparison slides on, to see how temperatures performed. So the orange and the blue are competitors, and the red is the D8. So what we did is we ran what's called WBC protocol. So when machines get approved for the World Barista Championships, they have to go through a protocol of testing to prove their stability. So what we did is we ran a shot every 10 minutes, and then broke it down to every 5 minutes, every 2 minutes, and then down to every 1 minute, and then every 40 seconds. So in the scenario of a 25-second shot, 15 seconds to reload the portafilter and run a shot. As you can see on the two standard heat exchangers, the temperature very quickly dropped off and came to about 2 degrees below where our desired set point was. The D8 initially fell into its window, but then held within 1 degree at all times through that test. And as I mentioned, if you continued this test on for a busy environment, what you'll actually see is this curve come down and then actually peak up and spike above and then come down again. Whereas actually on the D8, we've managed to create consistency. the Linear was one of the machines that I mentioned we tested against this, and again, it's had this fluctuations where we've created a consistency in our temperatures, which all impacts the overall flavour in the cup as well. So
The Zoe, you would see the bottom to the ground.
the Zoe would be close to that, not as extreme as that because of the increased boiler thickness and the size of the elements in the size of the capacity of the boilers. So, yeah, you would get a little bit of that for sure. No denying that. Generally, I would say on a Zoe, you're looking at between 1.5, 2 degrees of fluctuation, whereas that's sort of 3. When we come to the D8, you come down to sort of 1 degree of fluctuation, and kind of as we go through the range, that just keeps narrowing and narrowing. A couple of things from just an engineering point of view that we've done on the D8 as well. We've developed a whole new fleet of parts. So you'll see on the steam arm here's a little screw just beneath it. If you take that screw out, turn that whole assembly 45 degrees, the whole steam arm valve comes out the front of the machine to be worked on and be fixed. So you could either fix it, take it off the machine and fix it, or just replace it and take the broken one away and fix it away from site at another time. So downtime of machines on site for customers is reduced. Same with the same with the steam arm as well. That can just come out in the front of the machine. These are similar to the Zoes, but they're slightly improved. Single turn. There's no spinning and spinning and spinning. It's just one single turn on the steam arm, and you're on and you're off. And some of you may have noticed we've got some very interesting new steam tips. These are actually plastic. I'll let you have a go on them in a minute. They're fascinating. Milk doesn't stick to them. So where you get blockages and people get milk stuck in the bottom of steam tips, we've actually found milk doesn't actually stick to them, so they're reducing the blockages. And equally, if someone does take them off and lose them, cost to replace is massively reduced as well.
It's only the black bit though, isn't it?
This is just the black bit, yeah. So where the holes are at the bottom, yeah.
They cool touch.
They're not Cool Touch on the basic, but on the Pro they're Cool Touch.
And you can order them Cool Touch as well?
Yeah, you can see all the optional extras you can add on as Cool Touch on the base model as well.
That is cool, yeah.
So.
Literally doesn't do that.
It's weird. I'll do it in a minute. And you take the jug away and you look at the milk and it's all stuck here and just stops. It's weird. Don't ask me why. It's a special type of plastic that they've been playing with, but it's pretty neat. Expandability is what they call this slide. Connectivity. So links to grinders. We already have approved and working link with the Cafe Racer and the Malconics, which is now just about to go live, which is quite exciting. And also we will be doing it with the X1 once our telemetry system's live, and we're also working with another grinder company as well to do their link to our machines as well. So we are opening the protocol, I suppose is the best way to put it, and we're not being snobbish about who we work with grinders. If anyone wants to choose a particular range of grinders with a link, then we'll be able to link that to our machine going forward. We'll also be able to tie in things like Brita has their IQ filter heads, so you'll be able to put it into the telemetry system as well as on an open API to make everything controllable on one dashboard. Equally, our telemetry will also be an open API if you wanted it to talk into CRM systems and those kind of bits and pieces in the future as well. So lots of techie, geeky stuff happening in the background with some far more clever brains than I've got. Style. So the initial base models are coming in the white black, as you see it here, full black, as you see on the 3 group behind me, and then also a full white as version as well. We will also be having some custom panels which will be available as standard that can go on the sides and the ends, very similar to the ones we have for the U and the Cube on the machine as well. So lots of options coming there, and then we will also have a couple of special edition colours coming out in the Pro version when they launch. So we'll have the copper black version, so you've got copper legs and full black chassis with leather and gold stitching, or the champagne white.
So we'll be able to order, because I don't think we've got that image at the minute.
No, they will be available to order. These will come. They will be, yeah. So they'll be slightly after the initial Pros. The reason being, very simply, one of the certifications that we hold as a manufacturer is that the colours don't fade on our machines. So they have to go off for what's called life cycle testing, and they literally get under a year's worth of sunlight in about 3 weeks to see if they fade or not. So we're just going through the process with some of the new colours and materials.
Can we have that presentation as well, yeah?
No. Yeah, of course you can. Of course you can. Of course you can.
Just alongside Stewart,
Yep.
those two will basically go onto the prices like in the races.
Yeah, I've already got the prices, so I can give you the price today. I just can't tell you when you're getting it. That's the downside.
You might have said that. Will they be stocked in the UK? Those
Yeah.
two colours?
Yeah. So I've got a couple reserved coming to the UK already, as soon as they're ready.
In terms of drinks output for
Yep.
the Pro to the D8, is there a difference?
No, it'll be very similar. It's just literally the level of control you've got within the machine. The boiler sizes are exactly the same. It's literally down to the level of control and visibility and that you want with the.
D8 pricing on the system.
Yeah.
Got it as a separate document set up so you can see what the difference between the two models are. And what
Yeah. So I mean, list pricing from my point of view, this sits 400 quid more than the Zoe as a 2 group. So I don't know where you guys might have priced it slightly differently, but
4, 7 or something like that.
I think it's something like 5.5 versus 6.5 or something like that. So, sorry, basic versus.
to the Pro, yeah, about £1,000 and a bit. Yeah, it's cheaper than the Verona, I can tell you that. It's cheaper than the Verona, so yeah. So
How much does those other models jump up? Is it
top of my head, I want to say 450, 600 quid.
list price?
Yeah. So it's got slightly more capacity than the Zoe, but certainly not 300-400 cups a day, but certainly, 200 cups a day on a 2 group, 250, 300 on a 3 group, as its standard sits. And I expect the compact to come out about the 150 kind of mark. So again, this one's more than capable of sort of then starting to step into that lead machine within a coffee shop with that sort of capabilities. Equally with the controls you've got around maximising coffee quality with temperature control and everything else, it's super easy to play with and have a machine that people can work on.
Has it got pre-infusion?
Yes, it's got pre-infusion, yeah.
It does have everything that Zoe has and more.
It's got everything and more. It's almost has got as much as the F18 NB, yeah.
A good question. Why would I go for an SB over this?
You like the difficult questions today, don't you? Volume. Purely down to volume. We're talking about the linear. I'd say the SB beats the linear all day long. The SB is, from a volume point of view, consistency point of view, and everything else, and stability, that's where the F18 SB is far better than a D8. You would never get the capacity out of this that you'd get out of the SB. You'd be pushing 450, 500 cups on an SB. The one thing the SB has that the D8 doesn't have, the SB has timed pre-infusion. So you can adjust the time pre-infusion on the SB, rather than on here. What you have on here is you have 0.9 seconds on, 0.6 seconds off, and then it goes into its straight flow. So which is exactly the same as the Zoe. So you've got time pre-infusion on the SB versus this one, which is just a mechanical.
But the benefit of having pre-infusion versus not is probably greater than timing it.
Yeah. There's more benefit in having pre-infusion full stop than not having it. Yeah. So you have the option for 5 buttons or 7 buttons. Generally, we stick with 5 because there's no point in. So these two are pretty much disabled in the UK. UK models.
Okay.
I can turn them on if you want me to, but you've got 5 buttons as standard.
You have your 4 recipes around the top.
So you've got
Sanremo.
4 recipes and then flush or a double press for a free flow.
And settings.
And settings. So sets exactly the same as a Zoe. Press and hold and then dose select, exactly as you would set on a Zoe.
And left group programs, right?
Yep, and then if you program that one, it's standalone. There's a funky little light thing, and then I can start going and playing with the settings. So I can change the boiler. So it's currently at 123. If I wanted to change the group head temperature, got 92 flashing, 91 when it's not flashing, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, or 98. And literally, that's it, group head temperature set. So it's super easy to program and play with and calibrate. Pre-infusion is on, pre-infusion's now off. So yeah, really simple and really easy. So bringing this screen to the entry level just gives us a whole another level of control, which we wouldn't have had. Yeah, nearly impossible, nearly impossible. So yeah, good amount of control. And on the Pro, it's going to be even easier because you have that.
You can do all of that from your desk.
Yeah, you'll be able to do it all remotely.
Won't you do it from the machine?
Well, yeah,
Like, the engineer can just log into the
Yeah.
thing and do it on his laptop.
Yeah.
It's probably easier.
yeah.